Good morning. Welcome into 104.5 The Zone. We're happy to have you for the next 3 hours. Lucas is on loan for the morning show for the rest of the week, so it's just going to be Robert and me and Nate Washington later on in the program, and you, of course. 615-737-1045. That's how you jump in there. If you would like to give us a call, if you want to chime in via the F&M Bank chat, you can do that. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and on Twitch. If you are so inclined. Vanderbilt, men's and women's, getting it done in the SEC ACC Challenge last night. Congratulations.
Just like I said they would.
To them both. You're going to start in on your ACC truther nonsense already because you didn't quite have the night.
What do you mean?
Yesterday that you thought you were going to have.
No, I think I explicitly said that the ACC had their night on night one and that the SEC would show up and redeem themselves on night two. I think anything else that you would say would be categorically false.
Would you like to run the tape on that?
I don't think we need to. I don't think we necessarily need to.
The audience seems to want it.
Well, I mean...
It seems they don't just like when I'm loud wrong. It seems that they enjoy the two of you being as loud wrong equally.
Okay, I may have overstepped a little bit with my wade in the water comments. Auburn handing NC State their booty, 83-73. But I think that was expected. Louisville falling flat on their face against Arkansas.
Which gave me great joy because my basketball team lost last night because they can't rebound and they can't hit free throws. And in Big Ten play, that is going to give me great angst. But to see Louisville fall down on their faces, too, made me happy because I play them in 2 days.
But I think it's worth noting, Virginia took down Texas, 88-69.
I think it's worth noting the one.
Yeah, I was wrong as hell. Yeah, I put the cart before the horse.
That's
I counted my chickens before they hatched, all that good stuff. But I will not refrain from saying that when it matters, the ACC will dominate.
Okay. Well, I'm very happy for you. I'm
not very confident in that either.
We went to tape the install this morning, which you will, of course, hear a portion of here in just a second. Myles Garrett, what the Cleveland Browns defense does. I also want to talk about Jim Schwartz as a Titans head coaching candidate because that hasn't been discussed at all, and that's somebody who does have familiarity with the organization and somebody who has experience, and just because that experience wasn't great, his last opportunity to do so doesn't mean that he shouldn't be given at least some level of consideration, if that's something that he's interested in. I have no idea. But if we're talking about different coordinators or different kinds of coaches who are playing against the Titans on a week-by-week basis that have the opportunity to audition, why not somebody that you know and that you understand and that understands you, which I think is a critical component of whomever takes this next job. But cart before the horse type of conversations, Mike Tomlin and the idea of Mike Tomlin being fired or Mike Tomlin taking a college job, as was floated yesterday by Ben Roethlisberger, or Mike Tomlin being available to be hired by another NFL franchise that is in desperate need of leadership. Cough, cough, Tennessee. I don't know how to view Mike Tomlin's situation other than the last time he was asked about this. Now, Robert gave me this clip last night, but it's a 2-year-old clip. Do you remember the context at all? What jobs was Mike Tomlin in college being asked about 2 years ago to where he gave a very passionate and damn near angry response as to why he's being asked these questions and not the likes of Andy Reid and Sean Payton?
That's a great question. I don't remember.
I don't remember at all. I don't remember this ever being a part of the dialogue with Tomlin, but apparently it's something that he's been asked about before. And the only reason why it's picking up any traction this time around is because Penn State is an unholy mess. They, it seems, are going to have to settle, and no shade on the interim coach, but if you're the fan base, you fired somebody with Lane Kiffin's winning percentage in James Franklin to be declined or turned down by several other coaches of prominence. How many different coaches has Penn State gotten paid this year, in this last month, since they fired James Franklin? Because Jeff Brom is now turning down advances from Penn State and took an extension to stay at Louisville. They're getting people paid left and right So Penn State is running out of options, and all of a sudden Ben Roethlisberger goes on his podcast, a clip that we played for you yesterday, and says, at a certain point, things come to an end, and obviously Pittsburgh and Mike Tomlin have had a good run, and it doesn't sound like Mike Tomlin is wishing ill, or Ben Roethlisberger is wishing ill on Mike Tomlin in this particular situation, but it sounds like Ben Roethlisberger is saying, yeah, enough's enough. It's time for a change of the regime here, and wouldn't Mike Tomlin make a ton of sense at Penn State? Now, I want to hear this. Do you have it ready?
I do have it ready, yeah. And I found the job that he was being considered for in 2021. He was being, not considered, but brought up about the USC job. Would Mike Tomlin be interested in coaching the Trojans?
Okay.
And that is what prompted this response.
Mike, at any point in your coaching career, did you ever have an interest or express an interest in being a head coach in the college game? And do you have any idea how that may or may not have led to folks like Ryan and Doug Whaley and Carson Palmer connecting you to some college jobs?
Hey, guys, I don't have time for that speculation. I mean, that's a joke to me. I got one of the best jobs in all of professional sport. Why would I have any interest in coaching college football? That'll be the last time that I address it. And not only today, but moving forward. Never say never, but never. Okay? Anybody else got any questions about any college jobs? There's not a booster with a big enough blank check.
Anyone else? All right.
Thank you. Anybody asking Sean Payton about that? Anybody asking Andy Reid about stuff like that?
Mike Tomlin not having it. Now, again, that's a clip from 2 years ago. Could his position have changed? I don't know. Never say never, but never. Feels pretty definitive to me. And Mike Tomlin feels like somebody who would probably stick to his word in a situation like that. No booster could write a big enough check, was the phrase.
And I wonder if that statement was based off him having a job. He had a job when he made that statement, and he currently still does, but the rumors are swirling that Pittsburgh would move away from Mike Tomlin. I wonder if he would stick to his guns if he did not have a job.
Well, I think the thing that's more likely is that he takes a year off. If he gets let go, think about how long has Mike Tomlin been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's the second longest tenured coach.
He is the longest tenured coach.
Harbaugh's the second.
Correct.
Okay. He's the longest tenured coach in professional football. He has seen all manner of different personality types, all manner of different situations he's had to navigate, all manner of different strains and issues that coaching in that market specifically will bring into your life. Would it not make more sense? Because I think a lot of people, and it's not just Titans fans who are assuming if Mike Tomlin's available, go get him. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm taking a step back and be like, no. I'd like a breather here. I'd like to consider all my options. There is an assumption in the same way that we kind of had the conversation with Mike Vrabel, right? If Mike Vrabel got fired, I think a lot of people made the assumption that he would have a job immediately. And instead, Mike Vrabel went on this internship or whatever he was doing with the Cleveland Browns that gave him some kind of front office personnel role in Cleveland while also letting him participate in football and game day activities. I don't know that Mike Tomlin would have to take a similar tact there, right? There's a big difference between those two people and their resumes. But would it not make more sense for Mike Tomlin, who would be a viable candidate just about everywhere else, should he be fired, to just be like, nah, you know what? I'm not jumping right back into this thing. Not having any information on Mike Tomlin specifically, I think that makes way more sense than the idea of Mike Tomlin taking a college job. Or Mike Tomlin, throwing his hands up in the air and being like, all right, Pittsburgh, you don't want me? I'll go to Tennessee.
Or at least wait until a better job comes open. And instead of taking the Mike Vrabel coaching internship route, I think you could see Tomlin on TV. Tomlin would be incredible on TV. Why would he not take a junior year abroad, go on TV, make a little money? I mean, similar to what Bill did, right? Bill Belichick.
He wouldn't be making a little money. He could get a raise.
He would probably be making boatloads of cash with a lot less or a lot more job security. But I think he would be if he was fired today, he would be easily the number one candidate for any opening in the NFL.
Which gives him leverage, which is why if it was me, I would say, no, I'm not just going to rush into the next available opportunity. I'm going to take a step back. I'm going to really consider all my options. And if I want to Ben Johnson my way through this, or who's the general manager of the Commanders right now? Adam Peters, both of whom, not just because of this, but both of whom declined interviews here. Ben Johnson declined an interview with the Titans. Adam Peters declined an interview with the Titans. They ended up taking jobs that they found more viable at their current iterations, right? At the time, the Titans didn't have Cam Ward. I think that people are going to be interested in working with Cam Ward. I don't think that the Titans' job of 2 years ago when they hired Brian Callahan is the same way that it will be viewed. Now, the common denominator is, can you trust ownership? The answer currently is no. And that'll always be a sticking point, but it's more important to have a quarterback because if you start winning games, then you have to worry less about people meddling in your football affairs the way that the Titans have meddled in the football affairs with business people that don't have any business making football decisions.
I can't remember who I was talking with this about yesterday, but is there even a job that could come open that would interest you if you were Mike Tomlin? Right now, Titans is the only job, Titans and Giants. But then potential jobs that would come open, the Dolphins.
You want to go to Arizona?
The Arizona Cardinals. And then potential big swings if ownership was tired of people's shtick, where Kevin O'Connell, which I think would be a gross misuse of
that would be crazy.
Firing coach.
Cleveland.
Kevin Stefanski. Okay, would the pettiness, because I think Cleveland would bend over backwards to try to sign Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, but let's take this from the other side of the argument. If Mike Tomlin was so willing to rush into his next opportunity, it would make me think twice about Mike Tomlin, to be honest with you. Like, what's the rush, bud? You know, why are you do you really want to be the head coach of the Miami Dolphins? For what? What about this job is actually attractive? I would be skeptical of, all right, why do you want this job? What's going on here? Or are you really considering what's in your best interest and the best interest of the franchise? You just trying to make sure that you can go stick it to Pittsburgh. Again, I don't know what Mike Tomlin's motivations would be in this scenario. I just think there's so many different levels to his part of the conversation, and I don't think one of them includes taking a college job.
I agree with the college job, but then I'm reminded of a comment from him. I think it was spurred by a conversation about Chase Claypool. And do you remember when he got the first down and they were driving down the field against somebody? They needed to kick a field goal to win it, but Chase Claypool was taunting, was emoting in the middle of the field, and it stalled them from being able to get on there and kick a field goal. And Mike Tomlin was asked about players with issues, players with that were tough to coach. And he commented, I'm not scared of coaching. I love that. That's why I have this job. So that kind of makes me think like he wouldn't be afraid to take a lesser job because he's confident in his coaching ability. He's confident in his ability to turn something around. So that would be the only reason I would say that I think he could take a Cardinals job. He could take a Dolphins job, only because the same way that someone would be willing to take a run on Treylon Burks again. I can fix him. I can do what others could not. I think Tomlin has that kind of confidence about him.
Oh, for sure. Listen, Mike Tomlin would be a viable candidate anywhere if he was available. These are just other things that have to be taken into consideration when talking about the idea of Mike Tomlin in a place not named the Pittsburgh Steelers. We can take your phone calls on this. 615-737-1045 is how you participate in the discussion. We'll also get into a little bit of Shedeur Sanders analysis. It made me laugh because Robert and I were talking about it, prepping the show this morning, and I asked him, all right, if you were a fan, because I'm not the right person to gauge this, but if you were a Titans fan as opposed to a Ravens fan, which is what Robert is, what would you rather hear about today? Would you rather hear about Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward, which Cam Ward gave a 9-minute press conference yesterday? I would venture a guess to say that 80% of the questions that were asked of Cam Ward were about Shedeur Sanders, his relationship with Shedeur Sanders. Does he talk to Shedeur Sanders? It's a lot of Shedeur at the Cam Ward press conference yesterday. Or something that we're also going to get to at some point in the show, which is Dane Brugler's first mock draft in which he's proposing a Titans trade that I think is insufficient for what the cost should be to come up to the number one overall pick for the right to draft a quarterback. And you said, as a fan, that you would be exhausted by the Shedeur Sanders Cam Ward discussion when it really just started yesterday at about 1:45 in the afternoon, which is pretty funny to me. The fact that it's already taking that kind of a toll on people, because it's not important, right? It's the Ron Rivera-ism. Important versus interesting. Cam Ward versus Myles Garrett, very important, especially for the well-being of that quarterback. Cam Ward versus Shedeur Sanders. It's just a lot of TMZ. Greg Cosell, his analysis of Myles Garrett, of Shedeur Sanders, of what Cam Ward needs to work on, coming up next. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is here to help you if you're somebody who is suffering from performance issues. It's something that happens to a lot of guys as you get up there in age. As your body starts to change, the good news is there's real help. Since 2014, the Tennessee Men's Clinic has helped thousands of men get back to feeling like themselves. These aren't cookie-cutter treatments. The Tennessee Men's Clinic is urology-based and staffed with multiple licensed providers who specialize in men's sexual health. They use proven treatments tailored to your specific situation, so no one size fits all. Whether you're dealing with mild or moderate ED, performance issues, or even conditions like Peyronie's disease, their medical team will work with you to create a plan that gets results, often with options most men didn't even know were out there. And forget waiting around. They have in-house labs, so you get your blood work results in minutes, not days. If you felt the sting of performance issues recently, call the Tennessee Men's Clinic today. Your initial appointment is only $99 and includes a full medical consultation, blood work, and if medically advised, a test dose right there in the office. So call today at 615-208-9090. That's 615-208-9090 or book easily online at TennesseeMen'sClinic.com. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Taped a new episode of The Install with Greg Cosell this morning. As is the custom, we play you a portion of that podcast. You can go check out the full one via the podcast feed. The
podcast is up. YouTube is rendering as we speak.
Look at you working ahead of schedule. So you can always watch full episodes on the 104.5 The Zone YouTube channel. Subscribe to 104.5 The Zone's YouTube channel. While you're there, you can get The Install. You can get us every day. You can get all 4 daily shows, football and other F words, all manner of other original content that is being produced. We obviously didn't spend much time on the 25-3 ass kicking that was the Titans' loss to Jacksonville, but there are some important lessons for Cosell to impart to the audience about what it is to basically catalog week by week quarterback progression, regression, or otherwise, and kind of the pitfalls that are in that. Also, some really good Shedeur Sanders analysis that you will hear in the middle of this as well. This is a portion of The Install with Greg Cosell. Welcome into The Install with Greg Cosell of NFL Films. We are now into week 14. Greg, this is not going to be the number one game on every network this week, but there is at least some compelling nature to a couple of young quarterbacks who are getting ready to play in a game. They're not playing against one another, as tends to get lost in the dialogue around these things. But certainly, yeah. I fear for Cam Ward's safety this week because Myles Garrett is a monster.
Yeah, it's, when I was watching, obviously I've seen every Titans game in detail, and I watched the Browns defense because I really kind of like what Jim Schwartz does on the defensive side of the ball from a tactical perspective. He does, by the way, make it very difficult for young quarterbacks. He can make it difficult for veteran quarterbacks as well, because he's very subtle in the things he does on the back end. We talk a lot, and it's a big trend in the league, Buck, where we're seeing a lot more what we call late coverage rotation now, where defenses change the picture pre-snap to post-snap. That's become very common in the league. But what Jim Schwartz does is he does that, but he does it more subtly. So in other words, it's not as if you see some guy running from the first level all the way to the back end. He does it subtly. So you don't know whether, is this cover 2? Is this cover 3? I'm not really sure what it is. And of course, that changes all the rules. And a quarterback has about a millimeter of a second to know that, so he's really, really good at that. And obviously with Myles Garrett, and, it's easy to be facetious about this. Myles Garrett is arguably the best defensive player in the league on a record pace. I'm curious to see what the Titans do, how they go about pass protection, because neither tackle has played well enough where you'd feel the least bit comfortable with them in one-on-one pass protection in a longer yardage, pure pass situation. It's one thing if you call a 3-step drop or, that kind of stuff where the ball's out. But in the pure pass type situations, I'm very anxious to see what the Titans do, because you can't allow Latham and Moore to block 101 against Myles Garrett.
Well, and I'm assuming, Greg, and you may correct me on this if you think differently, but I'm assuming they're going to move Myles Garrett all around up front against this offensive line. If I see him lined up over Corey Levin, I'm not going to be surprised for a good amount of snaps.
No, and they do that on occasion, and you make a great point there, Buck, because that is very much opponent specific. So it could well be the case that they do that. Yeah, they're going to have to do something, obviously, just to try to keep Cam Ward at the least bit to feel somewhat comfortable before he even takes the snap.
So we will see what that plan looks like for Bo Hardegree and the rest of the offensive coaching staff here in Tennessee. But Greg, I just quickly, because there's not much to dissect from this game, 25-3 against the Jags.
Right.
But I do think it's important to talk about quarterback development within the context of Cam and how people, I think, make an assumption that it's going to be linear in a certain kind of way, when in the reality of his specific situation, at the very least, that's just not going to be the case on a week-to-week basis.
And you make a great point there, because you have to remember one thing. We don't know what Cam Ward's going to be. Do I think that he has a chance to be a very good player? I still do. But when you're on a team that's not very good, and I think, again, not trying to be sarcastic, some might say, oh, what do you mean not very good? They stink. But, when you're on a team that's not very good, and really the burden is on you because, yeah, they had a couple of good runs on the first series, but for the most part this season, they've not been able to run the ball with any kind of real consistency or sustainability. So the burden always falls on the quarterback, which is what you never want it to be with a rookie quarterback on a bad team. Your point's great. It's not going to be linear. You're not going to go play to play and go, oh, he's getting better each play, or he's getting better each game. That's not the way it plays out. He's going to have good plays and he's going to have some bad plays. This particular game against the Jaguars, some of his inconsistencies showed up, and they showed up a little more than you would like, but they showed up, which is doesn't mean he's not going to be better this week or better in 2 weeks or better next year. We don't know the answer to that. In fact, the thing that is going to be most fascinating, and then we can move on because I'm sure we've talked about this and we'll talk about it many, many more times, is he's almost going to be a rookie again next year because of a new coaching staff. And my guess is he'll be learning a brand new system. And that in and of itself takes time. So he's basically starting over. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this to you. I know I talked about it with others. Just look at Caleb Williams. I know they're 9-3, and but Caleb Williams is completing under 60%. The progress has been incremental. He's had great moments and he's had some tough moments, but he's on a pretty good team, obviously. So it's you overlook that, and we're immediately inclined to think that if a team has a good record, it means the quarterback's playing great, and that's not necessarily always the case.
I think that that's just a trap that people tend to fall into optically, unless that's a team that you're watching on a week by week basis and you understand
Right.
things on a bit more of a granular level. I think that's a great point
Great
by
point.
you.
Great point. Yep.
So with that being said, I do want to touch on Shador briefly because we don't have a huge
Yeah.
sample size, obviously, but we have seen him now in a couple of starts, Greg, and I'd just like to get your takeaways so far.
Yeah, and again, what I'm about to say is not a function of what he's going to be. Who knows? I guess the assumption is that he'll play the rest of the season. Who knows? We don't know the answer to that. I didn't think he played particularly well this week. I thought that he's going through, in some ways, some of the same things that Cam Ward's going through, and that is just normal for a young quarterback. He's still playing at college speed. So he doesn't drop back quickly enough. He doesn't see things quickly enough. So therefore, he leaves throws on the field that are clean. I know a lot was made of Jerry Jeudy and Sanders. If Sanders played well in this game and saw it the right way and delivered the ball when he should have, Jeudy would have had 150 receiving yards. Um, he didn't process it right. It didn't register the right way. Um, but again, like I said, everything is just a little slow, and that's pretty normal for a young quarterback playing in the NFL because they're always in the gun. They don't really have true dropbacks, Buck, where they get back there and they plant their foot ready to deliver. Everything is just done at I almost hate to use the word, but it's true kind of a leisurely pace. And you can get away with that in college football. The NFL, you can't really get away with that. And so he'll learn that, but he needs more and more reps, just like Cam Ward needs to continue to take reps, which is why you leave him in the game when it's 25-3 at the end. You just need reps, and Sanders obviously has way fewer reps than Cam, but if you believe he can play, I don't know what this coaching staff believes at this point. It may be incomplete, but if you believe he can play, then you just got to keep playing him and let him get more and more reps and let him adjust on his own. You can talk about it, but he's got to play and feel it to adjust to the speed.
Yeah, and that's to your point. It's tough to get a read on what Kevin Stefanski and his staff kind of feel at this point in
Right.
time about Shador Sanders, understanding how, for lack of a better term, convoluted their quarterback situation was coming into the year and the ways that they've tried to get through it. But we know that that offense starts first and foremost with the ground game, Greg. And so they'll try and they unlike the Titans are able to run the
And,
football at
and
a reasonable pace and with a reasonable success rate, and that takes a lot of pressure off Shador.
and Judkins has looked very good this year. He's I liked him coming out. He's not what you call an explosive back, but he's physical. He's got quickness in the hole. I mean, given their team, because they're not a good team either overall, he's played very, very well. They'd have to be happy with the way he's performed this year.
Uh, you brought up we talked about Jim Schwartz earlier, Greg, and this is an aside, not really for the purposes of our conversation, but I haven't really talked about him as a head coach a potential head coach so far this year. I'd be curious to see if there is any market for Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, well, he was once. I mean, so,
Sure.
he's really good. I mean, I've had, one of the things I always ask when I do get a chance to talk to offensive coaches is who are the defensive coaches that really you find, not problematic, but the toughest to go against. And Jim Schwartz's name always comes up. He's a guy that is highly, highly respected by offensive coaches around the league for what he does on the defensive side of the ball.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly he's very much respected here for his time here with the organization. Moving on to the rest of the weekend. We got a great Thursday nighter between the Cowboys and the
yeah.
Lions. Greg, I don't know how much more praise could be heaped upon Dak Prescott to go blow for blow in what was one of Patrick Mahomes' better games of the season.
Yeah.
On Thanksgiving, and for Dak to come out the better for it. He has just been impressive all year long. What are you seeing from Dak so far this season?
He's played well pretty much all season. I mean, I think what's lost with their team is the run game's been really good too. I mean, they're a complete offense. But if I could, Buck, I think what really stands out, and I think one reason that they've turned it around, and obviously this is a huge game, is defensively they are a totally different team now than they were early in the season. People were laughing about their defense. And now since they made those trades and over the last 3 weeks now, they have the rookie Revel playing outside corner, and this week he played pretty much every snap. Yeah, when I say this week, I mean Thanksgiving a week ago. I would assume that'll be the case in this game against the Lions. And they also have now played Bridges on the outside. Ty Bridges, who's 6'1", 6'2", he's got length, and that allows them to bring Bland inside to play the slot where he's so much better. He's not that good an outside corner, so he's so much better in the slot. People may remember that's where he first sort of, made his bones when we first learned about Bland. He was playing inside. And then he had the year with all the picks, which was fluky. But their defense now with that front they have with the 3 tackles, that may be the best trio of defensive tackles in the league. The linebacker position has been solidified with the trade for Wilson and the return of Overshown. This defense is significantly better than it was, 7-8 weeks ago.
Yeah, I mean, if they can give that offense a chance, you understand how much more viable the Cowboys become. Now, Detroit, as a matchup, is a very interesting game here, Greg. We understand that they're in a fight for this division at this point in time, trying to keep their spot in the postseason. Minnesota's not really going to push them at this point, but it's still pretty messy in the NFC North. What do you like about the matchup in this particular game?
Well, I think the Lions in an ideal world would like to be able to run the ball. It seems that's the way they've moved since Dan Campbell took over. I think they put Goff under center. I think he wants to be physical. We don't know, as we're talking on a Thursday about Amon-Ra St. Brown, who, I guess is questionable and may not go. If that's the case, it seems like Gibbs has really become their feature back. He had 20 carries a week ago on Thanksgiving. The Packers did a great job slowing him down, but we know he can break it at any time. So, the Lions, I mean, they're a solid football team. It's funny when teams lose people, what's wrong with this team? It's a competitive league. I don't know if there's anything wrong with the Lions. They didn't run the ball great last week. Their defense, they've had so many injuries on defense, particularly in the back end. And that'll be interesting in this game because Pickens and Lamb, I mean, I would say Devontae Adams is the best in the league at getting off the press. Pickens is pretty much there. We saw that against the Chiefs. I mean, he gets off press. And boy, is he's open in a second, running those slant routes, even getting vertical. I mean, Pickens, I know that people might disagree, but Pickens is more talented than Lamb. It's he may not be as consistent down after down after down because I don't know the personalities. I don't get into that.
Sure.
But he's really a gifted receiver.
Yeah, he's been awesome to watch this year, and he's had those moments obviously in Pittsburgh. But we understand that there were some mitigating circumstances that saw him get traded. So that is a portion of the install with Greg Cosell. How about that? George Pickens, a more talented receiver than CeeDee Lamb. You disagree?
I wasn't listening. If you would
eating
prompt the question, I was eating something. I was eating a delicious Hardee's, what was that, a cinnamon roll biscuit?
Cinnamon raisin biscuit from Hardee's.
I didn't even notice the raisins. I ate it so quick. What was the question though? I apologize.
No, it wasn't a question. It was just Cosell saying that he thinks George Pickens is more talented than CeeDee Lamb.
Greg knows far more. He's probably forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. But I do think that there's a qualifier in that a lot of the attention is probably going to CD, which allows George to act a little more on his own with a little less pervasion from the defense. So I could see why someone would say that. And I would agree that I think Pickens is more talented with the ball in his hand than CD is. But both great receivers. I think that you're knocking either one by.
It's the problem that you want to create for opposing defenses. It's why that trade makes sense if you're Dallas, and you can argue whether Pittsburgh should have done it in the first place and should they have found a way to work with a guy who's, maybe got some temperament stuff that you have to work through in George Pickens. I don't want to, again, I don't know him, so I don't want to put any kind of label on him other than what you read.
Right.
Coming out of Pittsburgh and his time at Georgia, but still.
And I think there's some notes to add to that too, right? Where it's like they traded for DK because they saw DK as a better wide receiver that fit what they wanted to do. But I also thought George Pickens was a square peg in a round hole in what they were asking him to do. The reason he's being so successful in Dallas, at least from my eyes, is they are putting him in space with the ball in his hand down the field. Pittsburgh, the targets were a lot more static, where it was go balls or post, where he would catch it and someone would be right on him.
Dallas asking him to win in isolation far more often.
Right. So they didn't have the money to pay both of them, and they thought, hey, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, so we might as well trade him for what we can get for him now. Because if he played this year out and went to free agency, he could have garnered them a compensatory pick 2 years from now. But they thought it was more valuable to trade him and get that third-round pick ahead of time, which I can't argue with that logic. I think anytime you look at something retroactively, there has to be nuance in the conversation, or else you don't give the conversation the attention that it really needs. Was it bad that they traded him? Sure. I think you could say that their offense is suffering. Yes. But was it also bad when they traded Antonio Brown to the Raiders for a third-round pick? Was it bad when they traded Chase Claypool to the Bears for a second-round pick? They have had a history.
They got a second for Chase Claypool?
It was the first pick in the second round.
That is such a robbery.
It was a robbery. So,
that's a player who I thought was going to be really good, and just it never happened.
In hindsight, sure, it hurts their offense, and they lost a very good player. But they have been similar to the Bill Belichick Patriots. They have been adept at trading guys away before bleep hits the fan. So I would trust them in hindsight, again, to make that decision if they weren't going to pay him.
A coaching candidate for the Tennessee Titans that nobody is talking about yet. We'll get into it coming up next. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. When the Titans go to Cleveland on Sunday, they are going to face off against a Browns team that is not very good, but does have a pretty damn good coaching staff. Kevin Stefanski is a two-time Coach of the Year. We'll see what happens to him at season's end. I think Cleveland would be foolish to let Kevin Stefanski go. Bad organizations make bad decisions all the time. That's how they stay bad. The Cleveland Browns famously stay bad. The other part of the Cleveland Browns coaching staff that is intriguing to me is Jim Schwartz, who is a very familiar face, not just because of his most recent stint, but because of what was he here from 1999 until 2008? I think 2009 was his first year as the Lions head coach, but he's the DC in Cleveland, and he's been there since he was a senior defensive assistant on Mike Vrabel's, was it 21? Was it 22? I can't remember. But he was here for a brief period of time under Mike Vrabel to just provide an additional set of eyes, ears, and football perspective. Then he took another DC job, and he's been coordinating one of the most effective defenses in football. Does it help him that he has Myles Garrett? Of course it does. He would not have Myles Garrett if he came here. He would have Jeffrey Simmons, which is not bad. Not a bad consolation prize. It's not the best defensive player in the sport, but it's not terrible. And I'm not talking about Jim Schwartz coming here as a defensive coordinator. I'm talking about Jim Schwartz as a head coach option. Now, he wasn't overwhelmingly successful in Detroit, but he did make the postseason once. He has one 10-win season. They got in as a wild card in 2011, and then they didn't do much after that, and he ended up getting fired in Detroit. A lot of things have gone wrong in Detroit until most recent history, where Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson and Aaron Glenn and all those people who were originally with that Lions staff helped turn them around. Jared Goff coming to Detroit, them finding good pieces in the draft to surround Jared Goff with, have all turned Detroit into what we think now of as a perennial playoff contender. They're 7-5. They got a huge game tonight against the Cowboys in the NFC. And I'd be curious to see how this goes. But is there any consideration to be given to an experienced coach, a coach who has been a head coach before, and a person who is intimately familiar with the way that this specific organization works? It's not as sexy as Robert Saleh and, of course, the offensive coordinator that Mike McDaniel, or rather that Jim Schwartz or Robert Saleh or any of these non-offensive-minded, play-calling potential head coaches would bring with them. I would make the argument it matters more for this specific situation than it does who you hire at head coach. I think that the hiring of Josh McDaniels in New England matters infinitely more for Drake May than the hiring of Mike Vrabel. Do you get one without the other? I don't know. But that case is a very easy one to make. A head coach matters, and you want an experienced coach in this particular situation. But I think I would have a great deal more trust in somebody that I knew how this place worked, rather than coming in sight unseen. Oh, sure, I'm excited to work with Cam Ward. Oh, who am I answering to? Oh, who's my actual boss here? Am I working for Mike Borgonzi? Am I working for Chad Brinker? Is Bert Nihill going to request regular meetings with me on a regular basis for reasons that are beyond my comprehension? I don't know. But I think I would feel better about a situation like that, even if it wasn't a super long-term situation. I like the idea of Jim Schwartz as a candidate here, at least an option. I'm not saying definitively Jim Schwartz or bust.
And I think it's important to note when we talk about candidates, not every candidate is created equal, at least in the eyes of hiring them. Sometimes they just want to see how other people do their process, how experienced head coaches would go about doing things. So they have a plethora of ideas to discuss with whoever their guy is. And this is kind of off base, but do you remember the conversation of how Schwartz came to Tennessee to be the senior defensive analyst?
It was not Vrabel's idea. It was suggested And Mike ended up, whether he was, kind of pushed into it. I don't think there's much pushing around Mike Vrabel in those situations. But it was not a Vrabel idea, but it ended up being something that Vrabel went along with.
Because I remember he stepped away from the Eagles due to health issues and then was signed to the Titans like 4 months later. So I didn't know if there was like a story behind that or not. But, I mean, I was kind of deep diving into his coordinators and who potential hires would be, and I was not enthused by his potential line of hiring. Scott Linehan was his OC when he was in Detroit. Scott is now a senior offensive assistant with the Saints, and their offense is humming. So I couldn't really find somebody that would tickle me pink if the Titans were able to hire him. But again, they don't have to hire all these guys they're interviewing. Sometimes it's just to gather information.
There's some questions in the chat about, does Schwartz even want to be here? I don't know. I have no idea if he's even interested in being a head coach again. That may be more responsibility than he wants to have, and maybe he's content to be. I mean, I don't know how content anybody would be to be on a 2-win Cleveland team, and Cleveland hasn't done much winning, if hardly at all, since Schwartz has been there. That doesn't make for a good atmosphere. Did you see any Jeff Simmons commentary yesterday coming out of the locker room about just how badly it sucks to come into work to this place on a regular basis? He sounds like he's in hell.
The only quote I saw was him talking about Myles Garrett. So I assume he's like, yeah, I'm supposed to be that guy. But we just can't seem to make it work.
No, he was kind of comparing himself, not as a player, because I think even Jeff understands that Myles Garrett is in a tier unto himself, especially this season. But I think he was kind of comparing Myles' situation and his situation to be like, yeah, we're highly effective defensive players who are in a place that doesn't win much, and you'd like to be a part of the turnaround, but it's relatable what Myles Garrett is going through versus what Jeff Simmons is up against. Now, Jeff Simmons has never been Myles Garrett, but you understand my point, or you understand his point. But, like, Schwartz, I don't know. I don't know. But why wouldn't it at least be considered? I would like to talk to him. In the same way, like, if Kurt Cignetti hadn't signed a massive extension with Indiana this offseason, I'd like to talk to Kurt Cignetti if I'm the Titans. Just curious. Just out of sheer curiosity. What do you think that you do at the college level for any potential college coaches that might be considered? I saw Dan Lanning and Marcus Freeman thrown out there as potential NFL candidates. And I don't know that either of them would leave the situation that they're in, because they seem to have a really good thing going, and they have a tremendous amount of control over their circumstances. But even if you weren't seriously considering hiring any of those top-tier college coaches, wouldn't you just be curious to kind of pick their brains a little bit? It doesn't have to be, not every candidate that you interview has to be somebody that you're seriously considering or that would even seriously consider you. But there's no harm in going through the interview process. 615-737-1045 is how you chime in. You can do so. We can take your phone calls. We can also talk about a wide open AFC as up for grabs as I can remember in quite some time. I'm Buck Rising. It's 1045 The Zone.
What's going on? 11:02. Good morning from the Circus Sports Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans preparing to head up to Cleveland this weekend with their first injury report of the week coming out yesterday. Jalen Armour-Davis with a DNP with an Achilles injury, and then a whole gaggle of players receiving a rest day. Some positive news. Shai Tuttle was a full participant after missing Week 13 with a concussion. In free agency news, the Baltimore Ravens have extended their franchise Triple Crown holder Mark Andrews to a 3-year, $39 million extension. Mark was set to be a free agent following this season. The NFL announced each team's nominees for this season's Walter Payton Man of the Year award, and the Titans have chose Jeffrey Simmons. Put a cool video out with Jelly Roll, congratulating him on being the Titans nominee. Other former Titans from around the league include Derrick Henry with the Baltimore Ravens and Azeez Al-Shire with the Houston Texans. Thursday Night Football tonight, Cowboys at Lions, and Detroit has once again been bitten by the injury bug. They will be without safety Kirby Joseph and wide receiver and return specialist Khalif Raymond. You can listen to that game right here on 104.5 The Zone. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Life comes at you fast in the NFL, and the AFC seems to be pretty representative of that so far this year. Welcome back. Second hour of the show is underway. Nate Washington, Titans legend, will join us at 12:20 today. We'll get his thoughts on Mike Tomlin and the entire situation going on in Pittsburgh, because not only was Nate a player for the Titans during his NFL career, but he started his career in Pittsburgh, and he has a very good read on the situation. So I'd be curious to know what he thinks about Mike Tomlin being floated by Ben Roethlisberger for the Penn State job and things of that ilk. 615-737-1045 is the number if you would like to participate. You are welcome to do so. F&M Bank Chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. If you would like to leave a comment there, you can do so as well. Who has had a more promising start to the season that looks more in jeopardy than the Indianapolis Colts? The Colts very quickly went from competing to the top or competing at the top of the conference to now they're in a situation where they're fighting for their playoff lives. They're playing the Jags this weekend, a place that is a house of horrors for Indianapolis. And Houston has a very critical game against the Kansas City Chiefs with, Robert, I don't know if you've seen the Chiefs' offensive line situation, but Trey Smith is not practicing. Josh Simmons, their rookie left tackle, just went on injured reserve. They may be without, I think, another starting offensive lineman as well, or at least they were practicing without another starting offensive lineman against
Jawan Taylor.
Jawan Taylor, the best defense in the sport, is Houston. The Chiefs have a 40% chance to make the postseason, just to make the playoffs. The Broncos have widened the gap so far at this point in time where we see a scenario. We've got, 5 more weeks left to go? Can we see a scenario in which Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs are not in the postseason? You can. There's a 60% chance that they're not. But it's unthinkable in the modern era of NFL that the Chiefs and Mahomes and Andy Reid and Travis Kelce would not be competing in the playoffs. The Broncos are riding a 9-game winning streak right now. And if they can beat the Raiders, they will extend that to 10. They will be one of 2 teams, because the Patriots are on a bye this week, with a 10-game winning streak in the NFL. And whatever you think of Bo Nix and that offense and how perilously they seem to survive a lot of these results, in the same way that I would caution you of just discounting the Patriots' schedule. To win 10 consecutive games in the NFL is insane. To win 9 consecutive games in the NFL is insane. The Titans have not won 10 games, or they have, rather, across 2023, 2024, and into 2025. They have won a total of 10 games, much less consecutive. 6 of those were in 23, which was Mike Vrabel's last season. So we understand how much darker things have gotten in the last season and 2/3 that we're getting ready to put a bow on right now.
And the Houston Texans are kind of hitting their stride, but their injury report does not look much better than the Chiefs does. Will Anderson did not participate. Danico Autry, who has blocked the most field goals in the NFL this year with 2, did not participate.
Titans legend.
Trent Brown did not participate. Kamari Lassiter, Woody Marks, who has been a revelation at the running back spot, where you thought, how the hell are they going to do this without Joe Mixon and old-ass Nick Chubb? And Woody Marks has reached for the bell, and Tim Settle on their defensive line. So they are also worse for wear coming into this game. I would go so far, and I was trying to find the tweet while you were talking, but I couldn't find it. Teams' percent chance to make the playoffs at different wins, and the Chiefs almost have to win 10 games to have over a 50% chance to make the postseason. They have never been in this spot since...
Not in this era.
Yeah, not in the Patrick Mahomes era. That's for sure. But they're not in the worst position, because I think the wild card is still in flux with Justin Herbert having to have surgery on his non-throwing hand. It will not impact him playing in the game. He said he's going to expect to play and prepare to play this week as if nothing was going on. But with your wild card teams in flux, I think there is a way for one of these teams on the outside looking in to weasel their way in despite being on the outside looking in.
Is this as wide open as the AFC has felt? Is it just because the Chiefs have fallen down here a little bit? I don't think so. It's because Lamar Jackson doesn't look completely right with the Ravens right now. They're trying to figure things out offensively, though, again, I think they would largely be fine if they could stop from fumbling 5 times in a football game. Lamar missed some uncharacteristic throws in that Bengals game. But I don't know, Robert. I have a hard time, in the same way that I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the Chiefs missing the playoffs, I'm going to have a hard time just thinking that Lamar Jackson is going to miss those kind of routine throws for the rest of the way through that he did on Sunday in a single-game sample size. Seemed like, understandably, a lot of hand-wringing around the Ravens, because you would like for them, if you're looking to kind of separate from who's actually good versus the dregs of the league, you'd like to see them put their thumb on a 3-win Bengals team at the time, now a 4-win Bengals team at the time. By the way, that Bengals game this weekend, that Bengals-Bills game becomes very, very interesting.
Yeah, if the Bengals are able to win that, I don't think there is a team with a winning record on the rest of their schedule. So even if they won out, I think that would put them at 9 wins, taking down the Steelers or taking down the Ravens once more. But on the Lamar injury front, they are saying that his play is not being impacted by his injury. I don't buy that. But if you're looking for any sign of good luck to come to the Ravens, Lamar has missed the first Wednesday practice of every single week since he came back from injury. They got a nice little mini bye after this game on Thanksgiving. Lamar did practice yesterday and did not sit out. So I think that little mini bye, that little 10-day break can do some good. But you got to win that game. Short week be damned. Thanksgiving be damned. Like, this is a team that was infinitely gettable, at least from a defensive standpoint, and you got mollywopped on the other side.
Division leaders right now, Patriots, Broncos, Jags, and Ravens. 3 wild cards, Chargers, Colts, and the Bills. The Colts have not won. This is the most embarrassing streak in professional football. The second most embarrassing streak in professional football belongs to the local professional football team who has not won a game at home. And we're coming up on 400 days, which is outrageous and offensive and embarrassing. But the Colts, having not won in Jacksonville since 2014, is the league's most embarrassing streak. It's outrageous because these are not world beater Jags teams. And the Colts haven't been that great, I guess, since 2014. But still, that's never been more in doubt. I mean, if the Colts get bounced out of the playoff picture, and this can be a week-to-week proposition, right? But the critical nature of these divisional games that these AFC South teams are going to play down the stretch, I don't know who I feel the best about right now in the AFC South. I love that the AFC South is competitive. It's unfortunate the Titans just have they have no seat at the table anywhere in professional football, much less competing for a division that has 3 highly competitive teams in it. But whose stock would you buy right now? 615-737-1045 in the AFC South. I still kind of think I'm in on the Colts because I don't trust Trevor Lawrence. But it's tough for me to not look at Houston and say all C.J. Stroud has to do is be average to slightly above, and that's the best team in the division right away.
I think the reason that it's tough to pick who you would want to buy stock in and not do a sell high, buy low kind of thing would be because every one of those teams has a decent to great defense, and every one of those teams has a decent to great running game. And those are the things that pick you up when the weather gets cold. So Trevor Lawrence be damned. I think that is my third option. C.J. Stroud has had his struggles this year, but I still think I would take him over Trevor Lawrence right now, given the weapons, given the people around him.
I just think Trevor Lawrence is...
I'm about ready to... The same place you were with Justin Fields, I have been with Trevor Lawrence, because I'm like, the dude's got to figure it out, right? He's had such a tough row to hoe with the quarterbacks and the options around him. But if you can't get it done now, like, they're winning in spite of Trevor Lawrence. They would be my bottom, and I would
Unless
probably...
they play the Titans.
Right, correct. And then they look sensational.
Then he looks
yeah, fantastic.
like the number 1 overall pick in the draft. It's funny how that Titans seem to have the effect on people. Ricky on YouTube, where you can interact with the show as well as call us, says, if Daniel Jones was 100% healthy, it would be a different story. Yeah, I mean... Of course, you could say that of any team who's experienced. This is the nature of the NFL. The team, the roster that you start the regular season with is sure as hell not the roster that you end the regular season with. That's where you talk about winning within the margins. If Daniel Jones dealing with a fibula injury, and he didn't look awful this past weekend. He looked fine. He wasn't a problem for them necessarily. Yeah, they can't be so fragile that the slightest little inconvenience in an NFL season would knock them off kilter. If so, then they will experience the same thing that many, many other teams have experienced. It's what made the Titans in 2021 so miraculous, that team with that many different players was able to find a way to scratch and claw and fight for the number 1 overall seed. Now, they squandered it, of course, in that playoff game against the Bengals, and at a certain point, it just felt, I don't know, it felt like the stars were aligning for Tennessee because Derek was back and healthy enough, AJ was back and healthy enough, Julio was healthy, like their parts and pieces were as healthy as you could have wanted them or could have prayed for them to be if you were a Titans fan, and Tannehill just, pooped the bed in that specific situation.
And to the commenter's point, the last 2 weeks where Daniel Jones has suffered the injury have been his worst of the season statistically. Like I don't disagree with you that he was fine, but it has impacted his play.
Oh, yeah. But, this is the nature of professional football.
100%. It's the war of attrition. Every single year it's the name of the game. In my opinion, it's the whole reason the Detroit Lions have not won a Super Bowl, because injuries are not turned off like on Madden. Believe happens. Stuff happens.
You can turn injuries off on Madden?
You can. It is very cheap. So that's
even the point.
That's how people like to play. They want to play with their best players. They don't want to play real football.
Madden is such a waste of time.
It's not. It helps you learn who people are. It helps you learn who's on your team.
No, that's fair.
And have unfair expectations for their abilities. He's really good on Madden. Why is he suck in real life?
Racing McMath should have been Julio Jones.
Yeah, Racing McMath was good. Anybody with straight line speed on Madden, you can make them into a baller.
Luke is in Dixon.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. So, this morning I think Ramon summed it up pretty well with what's going on in Pittsburgh and Tomlin, and basically called it the same old song and dance. Fans may be getting tired of it. My question is, as it regards to the FC South, would you rather have Tomlin or McCarthy? And is Zach Taylor on the hot seat? I know, can't help injuries, but fans get restless. I would lean maybe towards McCarthy just because of the offensive mind, but I think the discipline of both are really good. But I'm basically at a point where, every year we get hyped up, even this year with the number 1 overall pick in Cam, we were saying, well, maybe 6 to 8 wins, and I'm at the point where I believe it when I see it, that this team is just so bad, in such a bad spot in the gutter. So that's basically my question, Tomlin or McCarthy, and I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Yeah, we talked about this earlier. Well, specific to Mike Tomlin, it's how he opened the show. If I'm Mike Tomlin, I'm taking a year off. If I'm out in Pittsburgh, I'm taking a year off. I'm not just going to the next available job. He doesn't have to. McCarthy just took a year off. Now, McCarthy will be able to consider more viable options and will have the presence and the perspective to say, all right, is this something that's worth me coming out of my current situation? He's not being paid by the Cowboys anymore because his contract was expired. So he's not necessarily making money from Dallas that he can just afford to sit back, but he's made a fair amount of money in his career, and unless he's just wildly financially irresponsible, I don't think that Mike McCarthy needs to take a job. That's who I would want to be the next Titans coach. Somebody who doesn't need to just be an NFL head coach for the sake of being an NFL head coach. This shouldn't just be another job. It's one of 32, so somebody will take it. I don't want just somebody to take it. That's the laziest and dumbest version of the argument for, oh, well, this is an attractive job. It's one of 32. Okay, but you don't want it to be treated as one of 32 if it's 32. You want somebody who actually wants to be here, who actually believes in the promise of Cam Ward, in the ability to turn it around, in Mike Borgonzi's vision for the roster, and who isn't going to be messed with by ownership or the business side of things and allowed to do their job. I don't know if all of those things are going to come to pass. Again, Ben Johnson and Adam Peters, two of the most attractive head coach and GM candidates in the NFL, looked at this place and said, no, I don't care to interview there. And so instead of Adam Peters, the Titans hired Rand Carthon. Instead of, I'm blanking on his name, Brian Johnson? No. What's the Bears head coach name?
Coach Johnson.
Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson.
Yes. I don't
I
know where I got
that.
Brian Johnson. Ben Johnson said, no, I'll wait for a better opportunity. I'll take the Bears job. And the Bears had the number 1 overall pick at quarterback, who, by the way, Caleb Williams is not playing great right now. I think people just assume that Caleb Williams is fixed and that Ben Johnson has worked a miracle because the Bears have 9 wins. They're kind of doing that in spite of him.
I can't remember who wrote an article. I believe it was for The Athletic, talking about how coaching is back in. No longer are teams going to win on the back of superstar players, and that coaching can make a difference within the margins, and cited Ben Johnson, cited the Jaguars coach, cited different coaches getting more out of players winning in spite of their quarterbacks. I'll have to send that to you. It was a good read.
615-737-1045 is how you join the conversation. Speaking of conversation, interesting versus important, Cam Ward was asked 9,000 questions about Shedeur Sanders yesterday. You'll hear from Cam Ward coming up next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken. So we made it to Thursday before Shedeur Sanders and Cam Ward came up as a topic of conversation. I feel that the actual importance of this conversation is null and void unless Cam Ward should play a worse football game on Sunday than Shedeur Sanders does. Not because it will define their careers or make the Titans look wrong and the Browns look like geniuses or any kind of nonsense like that. But if you think you're exhausted by the Shedeur Sanders narrative now, let him go out there and outplay the number 1 overall pick. That will create a narrative that is intolerable and probably not true, but it will be everywhere. If you think that it's taking up too much oxygen now, Cam Ward had better find a way, as best as he's humanly able, to play a decent football game, at least a comparable football game, against the Browns defense than Shedeur Sanders is going to have against the Titans defense, because that will take over everything. It will start to question, it will, at least in media circles, people will start to question whether Shedeur Sanders should have been a higher draft pick than he actually was. Did the Titans make a mistake in taking Cam Ward where they did? It will be an ending for a 2-win football team, potentially a 3-win football team, in the Cleveland Browns versus the Tennessee Titans. Cam Ward gave a 9-minute press conference yesterday, and 75 to 80% of the questions were about Shedeur. The rest were about Myles Garrett and the Browns defense. This is an almost impossible task for Cam Ward because he's played good defenses before. He's played great defenses before so far in his young NFL career. He hasn't seen a player, a single individual, as good at just making a quarterback's life hell as Myles Garrett is and does routinely. He's 4 sacks away from breaking the single-season sack record. If I set the over-under at 4.5, he's had 5 sacks in a game this year. That was the Patriots game. They lost, but he had 5 sacks of Drake May in the Patriots game. I think I might be inclined to take the over. Cam Ward's not as good an athlete as Drake May is, and Cam Ward doesn't have as good of an offensive line as Drake May does, it seems. Cam was asked a variety of different questions yesterday about Shedeur Sanders, about the nature of his relationship, and we'll get to that here in just a second, but we can take your phone calls first. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Let's go to Miles in Nashville.
Morning.
Good morning.
We were talking about how much we're paying Cam Ward to learn bad habits this year, his rookie year. I mean, my heart goes out for him because we brought him in all pomp and circumstance, and I must admit I'm a Chiefs fan, but I bought into your pomp and circumstance for him. But my heart bleeds for the young man. You know, what a great rookie year. One to remember. Now you tack on Myles Garrett. Shoot, he's going to make history all year.
Appreciate the call, Miles. I wouldn't say that we've been overwhelmingly pomp and circumstance, at least us. I can't speak for everybody. Yeah, fans have the right to be excited about a number 1 overall pick at quarterback. That it's resulted in what may be the worst Titan season ever is not good. But yeah, I mean, of course you feel bad for Cam Ward. Now, the thing that I love about Cam Ward, whether I'm a media person or a Titans fan, is he doesn't give a damn about your pity or your sympathy or your moral victories or any of this stuff. The thing that I love about Cam Ward is that at every turn, he kind of brushes off the idea, well, aren't you making progress in this one department? I know you're not winning, little guy, but aren't you excited about the progress that you seem to be making? No, I keep losing. I'm pissed. I'm miserable. It's a terrible place to come into work, which is not what he said, but basically what Jeff Simmons said yesterday in the locker room. The losing is just rotting everything over there. Robert, we walked in the locker room yesterday. The damn lights weren't even on. Like, not all of the lights were on in the locker room. Like, it looked like dimly lit. It looked kind of, I don't know, grungy a little bit. I don't know if there was like a backlight in the locker room that goes around the entire locker room that went out. I don't know if somebody forgot to pay the bill, whatever. But
it's a figurative hangover.
It looked like something that people had abandoned, that had been left for dead, that had been left vacant, and that, vagrants had started to take the places of the locker room, except instead of vagrants, it's, Truman Jones or whatever Madden creative player you've never heard of that the Titans have picked up off another team's practice squad. It's just sad. So, yeah, you feel bad for Cam Ward. I love that Cam Ward isn't willing to take your pity and isn't interested in your pity. That's a fighter. And the best thing that I can say about him is that he's a tough SOB, and he's going to need to be, not just this Sunday. Steve is in Nashville.
Hey, thank you for taking my call today, Buck. I appreciate it.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, enough of the narrative. It's Cam versus Shador. Cam's not playing Shador. Shador's playing our defense, which our secondary sucks. I don't know if you've seen it lately. And Cam is playing one of the better defensive lines. So I don't control that narrative. I'm not defending it, and I'm not disagreeing completely with you because you're right. The whole national picture is going to be, oh, my gosh, Shador outplayed him. You can control your narrative on your show. I know that.
Oh, sure.
It's not that Cam outplayed Shador. It's not that Shador outplayed Cam. It's that one team is better defensively. And if you flip the quarterbacks around, the same thing would happen. Does that make sense? Because I am tired of the comparison Shador versus Cam.
Oh, now, yeah, but what I'm saying is, Steve, that will go nowhere. If anything, it will be jacked up to 11. Now, that's not what we're going to do locally because that's not the nature of our conversation. But if you turn on Get Up or what's the NFL Network morning show, Good Morning Football, or any of these different kind of things, of course, it will completely occupy the entire space. Just as Shador, who's won it, 1-1 as a starting quarterback, has taken up all the oxygen just by existing.
So how do you write the narrative where if we get plastered by 14, both of them have 125 yards passing? How do you paint that narrative?
Oh, it'll still be about Shador. I mean, for our purposes, it'll be about, did Cam Ward play a good enough game against Myles Garrett? Did Cam Ward survive Myles Garrett?
I agree with you. Hey, Buck, have a wonderful day. Don't freeze in Cleveland, man.
I'll try not to. Thank you for the call.
Brother.
Yeah, I mean, we are not going to, I'm not saying that we are going to have a conversation like that. I'm saying if you are tired of the way that this player is talked about now, specifically Shador, that will completely take over any kind of conversation if he goes out there and outplays the number 1 overall pick. Has he played any of the other rookies, Shador?
He played the 49ers and the Ravens, so no.
So, yeah, he's not, this will be his first opportunity, or the media's first opportunity to hold rookie Shador Sanders against rookie quarterback X, in this case the number 1 overall pick, and to start that conversation of, was Shador underdrafted? Did the NFL get it wrong? Was Mel Kiper right? All these different things, right? When it will have absolutely no bearing on the way that the game plays out. If Shador Sanders goes out there and plays a good game, it's because the Titans suck on defense, outside of Jeff Simmons
and
Cedric Gray.
Interested to get your opinion on this, but I also think it's worth noting that every position group surrounding Shador Sanders is not even comparable to what the Titans have. They are far and away better units than what Cam Ward is dealing with the Titans. The wide receivers is the closest you could argue, but they do not have a veteran wide receiver like Jerry Jeudy, who I think would be the number 1 best wide receiver on the Titans right now. The offensive line is light years better. The running back room, much better.
Well, now they're injured. The Cleveland Browns offensive line is injured.
A little beat up, but I would still take them.
Oh, sure. They run the ball miles more efficiently than the Titans do. The fact, it's still such a foreign concept for me to wrap my head around, the idea that the Tennessee Titans as an organization are the worst rushing team in football. It's unthinkable.
And it's tough just because, I hate to say this about Cleveland, but they have hit on draft picks where the Titans have not in previous years. Like, if you look at how the Browns team is built, it's built on guys that they took and felt comfortable either keeping or extending. And I just don't think the Titans have had that luxury with their picks lately. So, I mean, it's unfortunate to say, but Cleveland is a better team than the Titans right now.
Oh, I don't think that's debatable.
Far and away better. So, I mean, even if the argument was Shador versus Cam, there would have to be a caveat conversation of, well, yeah, and I think this is crazy to say from where we were at the beginning of the season,
Shador is in a much better spot than Cam is. Even given the Josina Anderson line of he had no first-team reps all year. He didn't get a chance to rep with any of these guys. He's in a better spot than Cam is.
Oh, by a mile. No, you would rather be Shador Sanders than Cam Ward if you're looking at, like, you've got a cleaner path. You've got better coaching. You've got a better roster. Listen, Jimmy Haslam is no bright and shining example of good NFL ownership. I'm not going to say that the Browns are a well-run organization. And I think their general manager is suspect, let's say. But he's done a better job than Tennessee has.
That's the Moneyball guy, right? Did he leave?
No, the Moneyball guy.
The Moneyball guy went back to the MLB.
Oh, I'm blanking on the name of their general manager. I can see his face. Andrew something.
I want to say Barry, but it's not Barry, is it?
It might be. Is it Andrew Barry?
It is Andrew Barry.
Okay.
Look at me.
Good job out of you.
Look at that.
So, Cleveland is a better situation than Tennessee is. Tennessee is the worst situation in football. It's not debatable. It's not debatable. Now, what is debatable is how much talent they have tried to infuse in the last 2 seasons via free agency that has just flat out flopped. And like J.C. Latham isn't a problem to me outright, but J.C. Latham and Tavondre Sweat are not the kind of impact players that you need for the kind of draft capital that was spent on them. Like, clear and obvious, no questions about either of them one way or the other. We're talking to J.C. Latham yesterday about, does he finish plays well enough? Does he play through the whistle well enough? He's a 7th overall pick in a draft. That's insane to be having that conversation. And again, he's talented enough. He should be better. The Zeitler thing we've talked about, Cushenberry, all of these things that they've tried to do. There is more talent here than they have played up, or that they have realized their potential or met their standards for those of them that have been in the NFL for years prior. Calvin Ridley was a fine NFL wide receiver. Maybe not the best, maybe not worth $24 million a year, whatever it ended up being on that 4-year, $92 million deal. But Calvin Ridley was a disaster here. L'Jarius Sneed, a disaster here. There are more talented players here. The fact that they have all collectively sucked is offensive. And you can pin that on the players. You can pin that on an organization that doesn't have a culture, was not prepared for the kind of players that they were bringing in here, and then decided, no, we don't want that kind of player anymore. We'll just reset the board and give pieces and parts away and make more needs as we continue to stack up needs moving forward in this thing, because they just reset the damn board so often. They are a mess, which you knew.
One positive, a player on the Titans was listed at having one of the best skills in the NFL. We'll talk about it, about Matt Bowen's list that one Titans player showed up on.
I'm Buck Reising. It's 104.5 The Zone. Welcome back to the show. Fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. Every Middle Tennessee Hattie B's location open at 11 o'clock. So if you haven't ordered your lunch yet or you're still thinking about what you want for lunch, Hattie B's can deliver to you. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. The F&M Bank chat available to you. So Robert found a list. We're already in list season. We have so much time, so many lists.
Yeah, and this feels like a summer list,
This is a summer list.
But you can't do it in the summer because this is something that is dictated off play in season. I think looking at it retroactively would lessen it. So I'm glad that Matt put this out, even though it is a premature list.
You know, it's fine. It's just going to prepare us for the months and months of list radio that we are getting ready to do.
Oh, I hear you like lists. I put a list in your list for you.
This is the opportunity that we had to do draft stuff because Lucas isn't here. Like, Lucas refuses to participate in the draft talk. And today we actually have a substantive draft-related conversation to have, and instead I've got a list.
Well, we'll do that at noon. We've still got it. Don't worry. I'm going to get my draft talk in one way or another.
You know it's awful when I am begging for draft talk in December. I'm just so tired of talking about 1 and 11.
But this was Matt Bowen. He put out a list of best NFL players at 109 different skills. Top quarterbacks, wide receivers, cornerbacks, pass rushers, offensive linemen. Everybody is in. No one is excluded. And before we start, I would have hated or loved, I'm not sure because I'm this type of personality, having to come up with 109 different skills because they get so in the weeds. Let me find a best short area burst. How the hell do you figure that out?
Best block disengage.
Yeah, Leonard Williams, dude. I hate how many times I've read this list.
Best pass lane swatter.
Was that Jordan Davis?
It is Jordan
I
Davis.
hate that I know that.
How many times have you read this damn list?
It has a lot of good facts in it. And I will say that. If you want to read the list, it goes all over the NFL. And it has a lot of nice little nuggets if you're into that sort of thing.
There's one Titan.
One Titan, and believe me, I have perused this list. But Jeffrey Simmons, best interior pass rusher.
Well, yeah, it's honestly a shame that he plays on such a terrible football team because he should be higher in the Pro Bowl voting than fourth right now. And Jeff will probably still end up in a Pro Bowl anyway because there will be defections. There will be guys who, I don't know who's ahead of him off the top of my head right now. But there will be guys who participate in the postseason. There will be guys who participate in the Super Bowl that may opt out, and Jeff can be in the Pro Bowl even if he finishes fourth in the voting. But this is what Matt Bowen writes of Jeffrey. Simmons is a powerful defender with counter moves and the short area speed to beat centers or guards in pass protection. His 19.7% pass rush win rate ranks 7th in the league among qualified pass rushers, not just interior guys, worth noting. Plus, he has 6.5 sacks and 29 pressures. Yeah, Jeff's really good. Just the only good thing about this damn franchise right now. That and the occasional Chimere DK punt return touchdown. And maybe Mike Borgonzi. And maybe Cam Ward. We'll see.
But winning that over guys like Leonard Floyd, Dexter Williams, any of these other plethora, Zach Allen, a plethora of interior pass rushers.
You meant Leonard Williams, not Leonard Floyd.
Who did I say?
Leonard Floyd.
I meant Williams. Yeah. Yes. But yeah, like to be listed on here, at least to have somebody is a good thing. But I tasked you with looking through this list and finding anything you thought was funny or notable or maybe a position that Titans could project into next year.
Yeah, so I'm looking at the quarterback categories here, and there are many. So the quarterback categories are this: best scrambler, top dual threat, most creative passer / off-platform thrower, best pocket poise, best decision maker, most instinctive passer, best quarterback field vision, quickest throw release, best pocket mobility, best passing mechanics, best touch and timing, best deep ball thrower, strongest arm, and most accurate passer. Jesus Christ, Matt Bowen.
I'm sure this was interns, right? Or maybe he just copy and pasted.
Matt Bowen is a sicko. Matt Bowen Matt Bowen did the NFL matchup show with Cosell for 100 years. They are the same person.
And he's the guy that always puts out like 350 draft prospects you need to know.
No, he's sick.
You know, they don't draft that many, right?
It doesn't matter.
But I love it. I appreciate it.
Yes. Correct. This man loves ball. So, Of the categories of the 7,000 quarterback categories that I just named, is there a single one that I could project Cam Ward into? Not best scrambler. He's not even the best athlete in his own draft class.
Yeah, I think you can throw like quickest throw release because of the throwing motion, best pocket mobility because of how many sacks he's taken.
He's not a dual threat. I wouldn't say he doesn't have bad poise in the pocket. He just, what he does to prolong the play kind of takes away from pocket poise, right? Like his strength is not poise within the pocket. His strength, theoretically, would be extending plays, but he's not the athlete at the pro level that he was at the college level that would make that a difference-making trait. I could go the most creative passer off platform, according to Matt Bowen, is Caleb Williams.
And part of that is his relationship with Ben Johnson and what the offense is asking.
Cam Ward having to make circus throws. He's good for one or two a game. Did he have one against the Jags? No. But still. He's had some moments where you see, oh, that's the number one overall pick in the draft. And a lot of times it's outside of structure. So I could, theoretically, go with most creative passer off platform, but if Caleb Williams, a second-year player, is already in that category, and Caleb Williams is a better prospect and a better player than Cam Ward is, then Cam Ward's probably not going to be the best in that category. The rest of this, most instinctive passer is Patrick Mahomes. I can't, in good conscience, project Cam Ward to become a more instinctive passer than Patrick Mahomes.
But those were the skills that were touted for him coming out of the draft.
Similar.
A lot of these skills that he is tough for us to think of now. I think part of that is situation and circumstance.
Now, you brought up one that I like because of who's in the category, and that category or that person is easier to supersede than the other two people that I just mentioned. Which is?
Best deep ball thrower, which is currently Sam Darnold.
Sam Darnold has Jackson Smith and Jigba.
And he notes that in the write-in segment. His 12 completions on passes of 30 or more air yards leads the league, and he has completed 70.6% of those throws, which is absolutely insane.
When Cam even when Cam doesn't get time, like that throw to Chig, that 38-yard throw to Chig that set them up with a first and goal situation against, was that Seattle?
Potentially. I'm terrible about recalling.
Houston. God, this was just 2 weeks ago. I should be able to remember that.
Or the throw where he dropped it right over the shoulder as he was getting his clock cleaned in the pocket. Like, I think that
he's had a couple of those.
You
right?
have examples.
There is. I could make a better case for Cam Ward being the best deep ball thrower in the NFL should he get competent help around him than I could the other two, given who's in the other two categories. It's not just about, I think Cam can be good at those things. I think those things could be a plus. I don't think he's going to be better at Patrick Mahomes in anything, ever. Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen. He's the most talented quarterback I've ever seen. Most well-rounded quarterback I've ever seen. Best deep ball thrower I could hear you out on if he does get either help from an offensive line standpoint or help from a downfield threat standpoint. That's about the only place I could project him, though.
A guy that I wonder, there's a number of spots that I think you could project DK to if his offensive, and this is special teams aside, his offensive capabilities continue to advance. I almost wonder if you could put him in a position with Rashid Shaheed as fastest pass catcher. And I took this as a different way than he meant it, but as someone who can get open quicker. He took it as Shaheed has topped the 21-mile-per-hour mark twice this season per Next Gen Stats. He's a burner who can create explosive plays downfield after the catch with straight-line speed. I think you could project DK into a number of these wide receiver statistics.
So he has a top recorded speed so far, according to the NFL, of 20.58 miles per hour, and that was on a 71-yard return that he had. Was that week 1? Oh, yeah, against the Broncos. His next fastest recorded time, at least according to what I'm finding on the NFL, is 20.15, which was his return against Seattle. So, yeah, I could see it, provided that he stay healthy. Shahid's fastest recorded time this year is what, 21 miles per hour?
Yes.
He's topped it twice. Yeah, you could project Chimere DK. Chimere DK is, that's one of the more pleasant surprises. That was one of the things that I feel like a lot of Titans fans took issue with on draft night, given who else was on the board. And that's something that I can't give Mike Borgonzi enough credit for. Like, I can be critical of Mike Borgonzi and say, have you really done a good enough job if you put together the worst team in Titans history? Understanding the context around it. But Chimere DK is somebody that you could be legitimately excited about.
I mean, do you remember when they took him over Ellick and everyone was so kind of perturbed with the fact of, why did we take this guy?
Or, yeah, who's the guy that the Chiefs drafted? Jalen Royal.
Yes.
That was a big sticking point, too.
Well, I think it's hurt people, where they remember Amon-Ra St. Brown being on the board, and they, you say his name. Who did they select?
Oh, Des Fitzpatrick?
It burns me to say that.
Why?
Hurts me, like Harry Potter when he who shall not be named is close.
Why is Des Fitzpatrick?
Because it hurts me just as much as, like,
oh,
saying
just because
that.
It's such an offensive draft error.
Yes.
Oh.
Amon-Ra St. Brown projected to play through injury tonight against the Cowboys.
You are. Des is still somewhere in the league. I think he was like a Chargers practice squad player last time.
Do you remember when he was with the Pittsburgh Steelers in one offseason and reports were coming out that the most impressive wide receiver at Steelers camp was Des Fitzpatrick?
I'm telling you, it's not a real thing that everybody leaves here and gets better, but there is something to that. All right. Coming up next, we will get into Dane Brugler, his mock draft 1.0, the Athletics' foremost draft analyst. And he has proposed a Titans trade down that I vehemently disagree with. We'll get into it coming up next.
12:01. What's going on? Good afternoon from the Circa Sports Studios. I am Robert Walsh. Titans preparing to head up to chilly old Cleveland this weekend with their first injury report of the week out yesterday. Jalen Armour-Davis did not practice with an Achilles injury, and a whole gaggle of players receiving a rest day. Shai Tuttle was a full participant after missing Week 13 with a concussion. In free agency news, the Baltimore Ravens are extending their franchise Triple Crown holder Mark Andrews to a 3-year, $39 million extension. Mark was set to be a free agent following this season. The NFL also announced each team's nominees for this season's Walter Payton Man of the Year award. If you missed it, you can go to Titan Socials and see Jelly Roll presenting Jeffrey Simmons with his nomination in the form of a trophy. Other Titans from around the league include Derrick Henry with the Baltimore Ravens and Azeez Al-Shire with the Houston Texans. Thursday Night Football tonight, Cowboys at the Lions. Detroit has once again been bitten by the injury bug. They will be without their starting safety, Kirby Joseph, and their return specialist / wide receiver, Khalif Raymond. You can listen to that game right here on 104.5 The Zone. For all your foundation repair and your waterproofing needs, you got to go to USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Yesterday at the Titans practice facility was an interesting occasion. Now, it's very rare that a 1-11 football team has anything interesting to say at this point in time, and I wouldn't say that there was too many different perspectives on one topic that's going to be polarizing, which is, hey, football player X, you want to win football games. Your fan base does not want you to win football games. They want the number 1 overall draft pick. How do you feel about that? Respond. Which led to some awkward and uncomfortable and, in some cases, funny, depending on who you were talking to, exchanges. But Jeffrey Simmons, as passionate as anybody on really any subject, and who is really looked to as the voice of the locker room right now, because he's the best player and should be respected as such, said, nobody in this building, I promise you, is thinking about the number 1 overall draft pick. Now, what Jeff means to say is nobody on the coaching staff or nobody in the locker room is thinking about the number 1 draft pick. Bet your ass that front office is locked in on the idea of a number 1 overall draft pick. And whatever fans want is, it's not irrelevant, but it's not relevant to them, right? I think they need to win a football game. I understand that you don't want to win so much that it jeopardizes your draft position in a meaningful way. But I can't have Cam Ward go through the rest of his rookie season without a single win. And with the one win that he's got, I mean, is that about as cheap a win as exists in the NFL this season? The Cardinals win?
Yes, I'd probably say so.
I
just
can't,
based off win percentage.
I can't find a less impressive win anywhere on the schedule, anywhere in the NFL, than the Titans screwing around for 3 quarters and the Cardinals, just pooping their pants and letting the Titans come back and win a game. They should be a completely winless football team. God knows they've performed like it. But I need that quarterback to taste real success. I need him to have a 4-quarter performance that leads to a win. I need their work existence to be less miserable. And the counterpoint to this is understandable. Be like, well, those coaches aren't going to be there next year. What do I care if those coaches win a game? Or that roster's not going to be there next year. What do I care if that roster wins a game? Cam Ward's going to be here. Jeffrey Simmons, theoretically, unless he decides he's sick of your crap, is going to be here. Cedric Gray, Gunnar Helm, Alec Iamaner, Femi Oladejo. I know Femi's not playing right now, but you get my point. Like, these guys are a part of your future. You cannot have them just be completely defeated at every turn and be the laughingstock of professional football. They need to go out there and win a game. Now, maybe they don't need to win many more than that because you don't want to jeopardize your number 1 overall pick. And I'm not even saying that go beat the Browns because that would potentially jeopardize your number 1 overall pick. But I do need them to win a game at least one more time this season to see the fruits of their efforts paid off in some form or fashion, to see them be rewarded in some form or fashion for going through an NFL season at least one time in a meaningful way. Arizona was not meaningful. It just wasn't. I know it happens all over the NFL. I know that the Broncos came back, down, like 21 points or something ridiculous. It may have been more than 21 points in a fourth quarter to beat the Giants. I know that comebacks the Cowboys just did it against the Eagles a couple of weeks ago. Like, these things do happen, but the rest of those teams have looked like professional football franchises at some point in the last calendar year. This team is going on 400 days without winning a home game. So the number one overall pick, CJ Frazier on YouTube says, you need it? Yeah, I need it. You need it. They need it. Anybody who spends time around them or watching them or is invested in them needs them to have some form of success at some point in Cam Ward's rookie season. Meaningful success. Because that is a miserable place to go to work right now. If I'm a Titans fan, I don't want Cam Ward to hate playing football for me. He's already at least given voice to the idea of this season has started to impact. It hasn't made him lose his love of football. I don't think anything could make Cam Ward lose his love of football. But I don't want it tested here. I don't want him to be the next cautionary tale, if I'm a Titans fan, of somebody who flamed out in a terrible situation and went on to have great success elsewhere. I don't want him to be the next Daniel Jones or Sam Darnold or Baker Mayfield or any of these other top draft picks that went to terrible organizations and the organization failed them miserably. Because it's really about the Titans failing Cam Ward. It's not about Cam Ward failing the Titans. Cam Ward, I still believe in more than not that he's going to be a good to potentially above average NFL football player. But don't let this place break him. That's why he needs to win a game. Now, if they don't, well, then they're very much in the driver's seat for the number one overall draft pick. And looking at Dane Brugler's first mock draft, he is very much projecting that the Titans are going to be the worst team in football again, and that they will have the number one overall draft pick. What he proposes here is a trade, which would be the ideal situation. But this is not an ideal trade. This is what Dane Brugler writes of the Browns trading up with Tennessee to draft Fernando Mendoza, the Indiana quarterback. Owning 2 first-rounders in April and having received marginal play under center this season, the Browns have ammo and motivation to be aggressive quarterback hunters this offseason. Cleveland traded back in last year's draft to be in position to go get its guy in 2026, and neither Dylan Gabriel nor Shedeur Sanders has done anything to change that plan. In this scenario, the Browns package both of their 2026 first-rounders and probably a 2027 Day 2 selection to Tennessee for the rights to the number one overall pick. That value is not sufficient. I would argue it's not even close, especially if you're trading up for the right to draft a quarterback. Now, you can do the Jimmy Johnson point system, and you would still find that it's not sufficient based on the point value of the number one overall pick versus what Cleveland has to offer, and you wouldn't turn your nose up at 2 first-round picks, but I'd want a future first as much as I'd want both Browns first-rounders this year.
I mean, I would argue he also has the Raiders trading up with the Giants from number 2, so the Raiders would go from 4 to 2 to select Dante Moore, Oregon quarterback.
And in this situation, the Browns would go from 5 to 1.
I think that the Giants get more value for their number 2 overall pick than the Titans do for their 1.
Agreed.
Simply because they get a future first, something that kind of extends your developmental runway for this rebuild. Because in its current standings, the trade that he's alleging would happen would be the Titans would receive the 5th overall pick, which is originally the Browns, and then the 26th overall, which is originally the Jaguars. And the players, that's kind of inconsequential to me because we really don't know who these guys are or how they're going to be evaluated. He has them taking a pass rusher and a wide receiver, which I think are both areas that the Titans could do well to upgrade in. But
they have like the 3rd edge rusher, the 4th edge rusher, Keldrick Falk out of Auburn.
Yeah, who's a fine player. But as far as value goes,
I need juice at number 5 overall.
I agree with you that they are not getting enough value. I would almost rather the Raiders trade up from 4. Like, why you're moving back an extra spot, which would allow the in this situation, the Giants to take Carnell Tate.
Do you want to have Dane on?
I would love to have Dane on.
I can text him.
I'd love to have dinner with Dane.
Well, I'm not going to suggest that.
Why not? I mean, or lunch. Doesn't have, it could be a late dinner or an early dinner.
Where would you take him?
Maybe like a little cocktail. I'm going to Pilato this weekend. I might take him to Pilato. Just kick Cheyenne out of the table and take Dane. Let me pick that brain of yours, Brugler.
This is, now, there's one, I'm not going to call him a moron, but somebody who's displaying the behavior of a moron in the chat.
Which is a polite way to call him a moron, but go on.
Well, I'd rather politely call somebody a moron than say,
no offense, but
that guy's dumb.
No offense, but you're stupid.
Roy on YouTube says 2 first rounds is better than first overall. Well, no, not necessarily. You have to be getting commensurate value for what that first overall pick brings you. That's the most ridiculous thing I've read today. Maybe it won't be the most ridiculous thing I've read by the end of the day, but it's one of the dumbest things I've read today.
But to your point of why that's true, I mean, and the Jimmy Johnson value chart is not the Bible for trading draft picks, but those two picks together do not equal the value of the number 1 overall pick. You're picking in the 26, where teams who made the playoffs pick.
Yeah.
And you're getting a fine player. I love KC Concepcion. I love him as much as I love saying his last name.
But you don't need fine players. You have no difference makers not named Jeffrey Simmons. You need difference-making talent at the top of the draft, and you need to be able to bank on difference-making talent moving forward. You do not have this discussion with any team that doesn't involve a future first. It's not just about, you're not going to be a playoff team next year. I feel like I can say that pretty confidently. If we are to take them at their word, they also recognize that they are and they're probably looking around like, oh my God, this is an even bigger rebuild than we could have possibly thought when we got here. Thank God we downplayed expectations if you're Chad Brinker or Mike Borgonzi. Now, are they going to be given sufficient time to pull this off? I have no idea. Your owner fires people every year. So maybe they don't get to see the fruits of their labor and everybody gets fired again and the wheels on the bus go round and round because that's how it works around here anymore. But it's about building this thing up, moving forward, and not just in the immediate. You are not going to change your entire franchise around in just 1 year. More likely than not. Can it happen? Sure.
Right, and if you look at last year, the Browns traded up for a non-quarterback in Travis Hunter, and I think got a better haul than what is being projected here by Brugler, where you get 5 and 26.
The Jags traded up.
Correct.
With the Browns.
Yes, correct. I apologize. They got more value out of that coming up for a non-quarterback. If you're coming up for a quarterback, I think you have to look at the Bears and Panthers trade as what you would need going forward.
615-737-1045 is the number. If you would like to participate, we can take your phone calls before Nate Washington joins us here in just a second. The Bears and Panthers trade for the number 1 overall pick was a 2023 first-round pick, which became Darnell Wright, starting right tackle, 2023 second-round pick, Tyreek Stevenson, a 2024 first-round pick, which became Caleb Williams, and a 2025 second-round pick, which became Luther Burden. So again, don't get caught up in the immediacy of, 2 first-rounders this year is way better than 1 first-rounder this year. Yes, but it's about, can you get additional value moving forward? You are not a 1-year-away team, in all likelihood. Now, could you do the miraculous like the Patriots just did? Yeah, but they already had Drake May. I don't know what Cam Ward's going to be. I'm assuming he's not going to have the first year to second year jump that Drake May did, unless he's also getting a Josh McDaniels, which we don't know right now. There's a lot of different unknowns about this situation versus that one. And even nobody could have had the Patriots winning 10 games in a row and looking the way that they do at the top of the AFC.
We've got Roy in the chat who's arguing with himself because I don't think you're arguing with us. You're saying, how many number 1 overall picks work out? What's our overall number 1 pick doing now? neither Buck nor I are suggesting that they should stick and pick at 1. In fact, I think it would be draft malpractice.
No, dumbass.
If they
We're saying trade.
No, say it politely. Say it.
You are displaying the behavior of a dumbass.
Yes, he's not calling you a dumbass. He's being very polite about
I kind of want to call you a dumbass.
We are saying that they are not getting enough value for that trade.
No, you trade that pick. You trade that pick, but you don't trade it for that offer. That's the point.
We are in agreement that they should get more.
Oh, my God. Yes. As many draft picks as humanly possible. You have no players.
I think I've been saying for like 3 weeks off air, like in no world, if they have the number 1 overall pick, should they be picking there? In no world.
Ryan is in Murfreesboro.
Hey, guys. How are y'all?
Well.
I just I haven't dove in. You guys are much more educated on the topic.
You'd be surprised, but go ahead.
Point. Is there a scenario where the Titans can pull, kind of a Texans, Stroud, Anderson trade with someone? I know those 2 players are not necessarily probably there in the draft, but something close to them.
So you're saying give up draft capital for better top-end players?
No, not trading for those 2, but when the Texans traded back.
No. What I'm saying is they traded up in the draft to get Will Anderson after they drafted C.J. Stroud. Like they gave up draft picks to go get that player. That's what you're saying.
Correct. Like trade back and then use that capital to trade up again.
Thank you for the call. I mean, they're not in a position to do that. The Texans were a much better roster. The Texans had Laramie Tunsil. They had Nico Collins. They had most of that defense in place. Did they not have Derek Stingley already?
Yeah, Stingley was already on the roster.
They had studs in a variety of different positions. Now, I mean, could they do it? Yeah, I mean, they could, but I don't think they're in the same position. Their situation is not the Texans' situation.
And different drafts, too, right? Like, the fact that Will Anderson was still there at that position was kind of crazy. Like, I don't think there's going to be enough quarterbacks to fuss people down the draft board that would allow you to do that, but we're 4 or 5 months away from that, so who knows? I mean, that would be a situation.
4 or 5 months of this?
I know, I can't wait. I'm so excited. I'm so stinking excited.
Because you get to talk about the draft while also watching potentially a playoff team.
Potentially.
The
Titans pick gets better if they are. You should want that too, buddy.
Nate Washington next. Welcome back to the show, fueled by Hattie B's Hot Chicken, the best hot chicken in the world. I have to apologize to Nate Washington because I have made us late for his segment, and the last thing that I want to do is keep published author Nate Washington waiting. Nate joins us every Thursday at this time, thereabouts, at NWash85 is where you can follow along. Football Was My Father is the new book available on the Amazon bookstore. You can go get your copy ahead of the holidays for you or for someone in your life. I saw, Nate, you were doing a speaking engagement with the Atlanta Falcons. Was that last week? Oh, we might be muted.
Yeah, let me check on something real quick.
Okay.
It might be my fault.
Uh-oh.
It definitely ain't Nate's fault.
I can't hear you guys.
Oh,
there
can
we
you
go.
hear us now?
He can't hear us. No, we gonna fix it.
Okay, we're going to make it work. Robert is back there working diligently to make sure that Nate Washington can hear us or that we can hear Nate, and all of these things can be made correct. But Nate will have good perspective on a couple of different things that are topical today. We spent a little time in the discussion with the Shedeur Sanders Cam Ward thing last week, but also playing at Cleveland, something Nate will have experience with, given his time with the Pittsburgh Steelers before he was a member of the Tennessee Titans. And I'm also curious to get his perspective on the Mike Tomlin situation, because that is something that has a lot of people's interest at this point in time. In the meantime, 615-737-1045 is the number if you want to jump in. F&M Bank Chat, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch, where Dixie writes, "The show is a well-oiled machine." Yeah, but why would we want to change the thing that we are so good at, which is being so bad on a regular basis? I am fascinated to hear what Nate has to say about Nate Washington. I'm surprised that as many former Steelers have come out publicly with their thoughts on Mike Tomlin's situation. And Nate Washington, I believe, is good now. You can hear us?
Yeah, I got you now, my guy.
All right. So not only did we keep you waiting for longer than we should have, we couldn't get the technical part right. We apologize, Nate. I'm very sorry. But we're happy.
It's not all your fault. It could be me too, man. We both in this together.
No, well, that's fair. And that's why you're a good teammate and why I would be a bad teammate, because I would immediately start pointing fingers in the locker room as opposed to being like, no, we got this. We'll figure it out. That's why we need Nate.
Yeah.
To keep the ship afloat. I mentioned, obviously, the book Football Was My Father, available in the Amazon bookstore. You can get it for your holiday purchase for you or a loved one. Today, did you have a speaking engagement recently with the Falcons about the book or about the themes of the book?
Definitely. So ironically enough, a good friend of mine that played with me at the Titans, Fernando Velasco, is their player development guy. And he purchased the book, and he actually contacted me and was like, "Hey, man, this is exactly what my rookies need to hear. You know, I read your book on the way to New England, and I was very impressed, and I was seeing if you were interested in coming and speaking to the rookies, being that I'm also here in Atlanta." So definitely, man, I had the opportunity to go meet some of those guys and, you know, spread some of the words that I've learned over the years and some key points from the book about the lessons that I've learned from the league, and had a great time with them. You know, it's ironic. You know, I told them in the beginning, I remember not too long ago being that guy sitting in those seats watching the former players come back and speak to the guys. So to have the opportunity that I have at the knowledge that I have at this point was definitely gratifying.
At NWash85 is where you can follow Nate Washington online. It's well worth your time. It's very entertaining and also very informative to follow Nate's Twitter. Also on Instagram. Nate, what's your Instagram? Is it different than your Twitter handle?
No, I think it's the same thing, but at the same time, that my people are running that. It's me, but I know nothing about that, so I'm still learning.
That's okay. That doesn't mean we can't get you a following. Listen, I have people posting on my Instagram. This is where you want to get to in life. You outsource.
Yeah,
things.
definitely. I'm working on it,
things, baby. It's a beautiful thing.
Yes, I'm working on
it. Anyway, so just to that point, though, Nate, I see some of your tweets about Titans and alumni relations, and some of it's obviously in jest with, you know, John Gruden gets a big box of swag. Why aren't you sending stuff out to the former players and people who have helped make the organization better than it currently is, obviously. At this point in time, how would you say the Titans do with alumni relations just on the whole?
I want to be clear. I think things have changed tremendously for the best since Miss Amy has gotten here. She has invested quite a bit of finances into this Titans organization. And, although we haven't had our alumni reunions these past couple of years, when we did have them, they were first class events. She flew in guys that were out of town and their spouses, and even guys that were on the practice squad, so put us up in very nice accommodations. We got gifts, and my lady at the time, she got a jacket better than me, so I was salty at her. They kind of took care of her, but at the same time, they do. It's a first class rollout for the guys that come back. I think they do a great job as well, trying to engage to the best of their ability with the legend of the game. They do those events with some of the former players and give them an opportunity to come and speak in front of the crowd. So I want to commend them for that. But if I'm honest, I feel like traditionally and culture-wise, it's bare minimum with this organization. I don't mean to compare, but when you look at how the Steelers treat their former players, and although I understand the success is different, but in the same sense, for me, being a alumni, and I'm not speaking for myself personally, I'm actually speaking for some of the guys that I feel like are owed more due than they receive. The Chris Johnsons, Eddie Georges, those guys in my opinion, for Eddie to just go in the Ring of Honor in 2019, that was way too late. He is a pinnacle of that organization. When you think about Tennessee Titans, you think about Steve McNair, and you think about Eddie George. And I just think those type of things take too long to acknowledge and engage in. I seen the acknowledgement for Mike Keith. I think it was either last year or this year. And from what I could see, it was kind of just bare minimum. I want more for those guys, because guys like that are the foundation of that organization. They are the foundation of the organization in the city. They are everything that city and those fans relate to when they think about the Titans. And I just think they deserve a little bit more, So in that regard, I think there's room for improvement. I think there's a lot of things that they can do to acknowledge some of their greats that they had to build the foundation of what the Titans organization is.
Well, and obviously this is just my opinion, and I'm not speaking for anybody but me in this situation. Nate, when I see them do some of these things, it's almost like they almost use, like the Mike Keith thing, just because it's recent, for example. It almost felt like a bit of a distraction from, hey, the football team's really bad, but they can't boo Mike Keith, right? So let's do this Mike Keith thing in a situation where they would never, go after a legend that Mike Keith is, but Amy's not going to speak at the inducting ceremony. Amy Adams-Strunk is not going to speak at that ceremony, because if you put her in front of a microphone, the crowd's going to boo her. And Burke Nihill, the team president, gets out there to be a part of the induction, and he gets booed in a way that he was not expecting. I don't know. Some of it seems to me, and it's just an opinion, it's not, fact or anything like that. It does seem to be a little bit more reactive as opposed to what you're saying, which it should be proactive.
Yes, correct. And that's exactly where I'm coming from. A lot of these things are in response to backlash that they're receiving in other areas. And at some point, you're going to have to grab the bull by the horns. I too have moments where I have discussions with fans and have a tendency to look at situations like, you just don't understand. I have a different perspective and this, that, and the third. But at some point, fans do, especially when they're investing their finances into this organization, they're on an explanation by the head up. And at some point, she's going to have to address this fan base outside of announcing, the new stadium, and allowing that also in itself to be a distraction. So I think, more than anything, I appreciate the effort that she's given and, trying to build and financially fund this organization. But I would love for her at some point to grab the bull by the horns and just be more involved with the football operations in itself.
Well, and this is not what I had planned to talk to you about today, by the way, and Nate's always good to adapt to where we kind of end up in conversation. At NWash85 is where you can follow him. Nate Washington here with us, as he is every Thursday. But the idea that as a player, right, Nate, you're focused first and foremost on the locker room. The best kind of locker rooms govern and police themselves. They set the tone for how that's going to operate. And you don't want an ownership group that meddles too much, But I do think that what you're saying about you want to feel like everybody involved with the organization is in the trenches with you, doing their job and not wading too far into areas that aren't their department, right? You want people focused on what the most important job for that specific branch of the organization is. But I do think it's notable. I do think people pay attention to when an ownership group, and not making it specifically about this one, but there is some of that here, when an ownership group isn't viewed as being in the trenches with you, through the grind with you, right? Whatever Jerry Jones is, nobody can deny that he's not every day spending a meaningful amount of time on the business of the Dallas Cowboys in the building, that Jerry's visible, that Jerry is accessible that way. He's got his own problems, right? But I just think that, does a locker room pick up on that at all, or is that just kind of ancillary?
I think, as you stated, man, the best organization's ownership is present. Once again, not to compare, but I've had experiences in different places. And when I was in Pittsburgh, although Mr. Rooney was of age and was the face of ownership, we seen Mr. Rooney every single day, multiple times during the day, walking through the locker room, coming and talking and joking with Ben Roethlisberger and the rest of the higher-up players and those type of things. But we seen Mr. Rooney every single day. And then I signed, with the Tennessee Titans, and may he rest in peace, although, I knew he was involved as a player, Mr. Adams, as involved as he was, his absence was obvious, that it wasn't the same aura, being that he would only be around maybe during the Houston Texans week or those type of things. And then I leave there and I go to Houston Texans, and once again we go to the playoffs that year, but you're dealing with a team. We seen Mr. McNair every single day at practice. He would be standing at one in the field at some point. I leave there, I go to New England. I'm in New England for a training camp in the spring. Every day I seen Mr. Kraft. So there's a synonymous attribute for the organizations that are trending in the right direction. While there's football operations that go on, a lot of players don't understand in front office, behind the scenes, and those type of things. The obvious effect that it has on a team being present in itself, you just can't deny it. And I don't know, obviously not being in the building, I don't know if she's at practice, if she's, involved in herself in learning and doing those type of things, but at the same time, I do know that it's necessary if they're going to trend in the right direction to understand what this culture is going to need.
I can tell you that she is not a frequent presence in that way, the way that you're specifically describing. It's far more infrequent than that, but we don't have to get too much further into that. What's the toughest thing about playing? You played a lot of AFC North games, obviously, in your career. Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cleveland, Cincinnati, all of these difficult places to play because the atmosphere, the outdoor nature of it, the elements being involved. Titans go to Cleveland this weekend, and while the snow looks like it's going to hold off, we understand that the lake effect and the wind are always a factor. What do you have to take into account as an offense, preparing for what type of game that's going to have to be?
Well, personally, on a personal standpoint, speaking personally, playing in Cleveland during this time of year at that stadium on the water, that wind is going to be swirling. It's high winds. They always get, even with that cold temperature, if the snow stays off, sometimes you want it to snow. Being a guy from Ohio, I understand, snow isn't always your coldest weather. Sometimes when it's not snowing and that cold air is cutting hard, man, that's way colder than if it is actually snowing. So they're definitely going to have to deal with inclement climates. But in itself, you're dealing with the AFC North. I know times have changed and organizations have changed, but the physical nature of the AFC North has not changed. And you're going to deal with a team that's going to be physical on Sunday. This defense obviously has been playing lights out. And the way our offensive line has been playing, they're definitely going to have to deal with, that Myles Garrett tornado that's coming towards them. So hopefully they're prepared enough to fight, and give their best and do what they can. But this is going to be a physical game on Sunday, and hopefully they're prepared for such.
Over under 4.5 sacks individually for Myles Garrett.
Oh, man.
Four, and he breaks the single season sack record, Nate.
Oh man, I'm, Buck, you put me in the tight position because I just got on my mom today about manifesting bad things. So,
That's all I do, buddy.
I don't want it to be too bad, but man, the expectation hopefully is average, man. I just hope these guys come out and compete, man. That's all I can ask for.
That is a very diplomatic response from Nate Washington at NWash85. Football Was My Father, the book available now in the Amazon bookstore. Make sure you take advantage of the holiday season and get a copy for the loved one in your life. There's some really good and valuable lessons to be taken from it. Nate, thank you for the time, and we apologize for keeping you waiting, buddy. Thank you for doing this.
Nah, man. Anytime, Buck. I appreciate you, bro. Happy holidays.
You as well. That's Nate Washington with us on 104.5 The Zone. Last call for phone calls. If you got them, 615-737-1045 is the number. We'll wrap the show coming up next.
It's lunchtime. That means Hattie B's. And that's right, football season, hard to believe, but the regular season is nearing its end in college football. There is still time to fuel your tailgate or watch party with a big old bucket of chicken, some course of their incredible sides with Hattie B's. You can also visit any one of their 7 Middle Tennessee locations, the factory at Franklin, Lower Broadway, Melrose, Midtown, Nashville West, even the Nashville Airport, and at Nissan Stadium. That's right, there is Hattie B's hot chicken in Section 121 and Section 339 that you can enjoy while you watch Titans and Jags, especially when it gets chilly. No better way to warm up than with some heat from Hattie B's. And they've got options. The Southern salads are fantastic. I have 2 words for you: cornbread croutons. Trust me, thank me on it later. If you download the Hattie B's app today, you get a free dessert. Just for downloading the app, start to build up those rewards. So download the Hattie B's app, head to HattieB.com, and head to Hattie B's today.
I'll be home for Christmas. You can count on me. I'll be home for Christmas. If only in my dreams.
Selling your home can be stressful, but it doesn't have to be. Get a guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. There are no showings, no open houses, no stress. Work with the #1 real estate team in the U.S. and close with confidence. Go to markspain.com today.
Smashville hockey. Around here, it can sound like a language of its own. But hey, if you can pronounce Demumbrian, then names like Yossi, Shea, and Marchessault will roll right off the tongue. Nashville Predators, only in Smashville.
One of the largest sports books east of the Mississippi, Circa Sports Kentucky, is now open. Catch all your favorite games on an 80-foot screen with stadium-style seating and live VSiN broadcast daily. Circa Sports, now open at the Mint Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs.
My dad and I used to golf together all the time, but when he hurt his back, it was over.
To have your son want to spend time with you is amazing. That's why my chronic back pain has been so heartbreaking. Surgery, fused bones, long recovery. No way, not for me. A friend recommended stem cells, so I gave Kellum Stem Cell Institute a call.
I'm glad you're out on the course.
Yeah, it's really good.
Call the Kellum Stem Cell Institute today. Swing still looks just okay though.
Last call for phone calls if you got them. 615-737-1045 is the number. Did you survive today? You got to do this again tomorrow. You okay back there?
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Oh, boy. It's not like we're busy or anything.
Who's busy?
Me? You?
I'm
Anybody?
not that busy right now.
Well,
I wish I was busier.
I will give something to make the listeners a little more busy
What do you
because next Tuesday we've got one of my favorite events of the entire year.
Oh no.
Toy Field, baby. We are going to be out and we are going to be making a field of toys.
Mm-hmm.
And it ain't just for the kids. You can bring something for the geezers. You can bring a blanket, bring hard candies. I don't know if they want hard candies. All of it's listed on the website. If you got any questions, you can check the website out. But toys for the kids, we're building a whole field of toys, and we're going to be out there all day. Every station in this cluster is going to be out there. It's the only time that you get to see the mystery vortex of what Matt Murphy and 3HL would look like. But it's a lot of fun. We get to see a lot of people, a lot of businesses come out, a lot of listeners come out. It's a lot of fun. We got food out there. Come out and see us.
I go. It's a good event.
Great event. Some say it's the best event all year.
It's the event with the best cause.
There you go.
For sure.
There you go.
But every time I go out of my way to go to this toy shop in Green Hills, okay, I go get a toy for a boy, a toy for a girl, and a book.
Mm-hmm.
Because people should be reading more books. Now, I'm sure the kids hate the books, but whatever.
You don't know that. Some kid, I love getting books
not.
as a kid.
I hope not.
When I was a nerd.
I feel like it's good balance. You know, you get a Barbie, you get a monster truck, you get a book. All right, everybody's happy. Every year when I drop the toy, my contribution to Toy Field, when I drop the bag on the field, the two of you give me a hard time about the way that I do it. I don't know if you want me to daintily place the items.
What do you throw? You throw it.
No, I mean I drop it.
Yeah. It is a drop off, but you should place them on the field or give them to CJ. CJ has got delicate hands. He's got soft hands, and he puts those down very gently. You need to have a little more care.
Okay, I think that's fair.
I appreciate that.
That's fair criticism. Thursday Night Football should be electric.
Well, hold on. I'm not done with Toy Field. If anybody brings in Pokemon cards, I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I will replace said toy with another toy, but I'm taking the Pokemon cards. You can't find them anywhere.
Why did I not see any return on investment? I gave you an entire shoebox full of, early or late 1990s, early 2000s Pokemon
They were
cards.
early print, too.
And you did nothing with them.
There's a bunch of French cards in there I guess you bought when you were living overseas.
Yeah.
No, I didn't sell them. I cleaned them up and put them in a binder.
I gave them to you to sell.
I understand that.
I don't care about the aesthetics of your binder.
But despite everything that you look like now, the aesthetic that you've built now, those cards were trashed, dude. They were stuck together. They were
I put them in a shoebox and I didn't think about them for 20 years.
Well, it looked like you gnawed on them when you were playing with them. There were some cards that were just mangled.
Actually.
Yes. I don't know if
I forgot that because I do. I mean, we've lived internationally for a period of time, so I would have some French and German and.
Yeah, they're worthless.
Are they?
Not worthless, but they are worthless.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Japanese cards worthless. Everyone always wants
Japanese. I would have thought would have been worth more.
Nah, it's always the English print. You need the English print. So if anyone that's dropping off toys, if you see some Pokemon cards, I should say it correctly. I know the correct pronunciation. If you see any Pokemon cards out there, bring them to Toy Field, and I will donate 3 toys for every Pokemon card you guys bring in. How about that? That sounds like a fair trade to me.
Duck on YouTube says Buck looks like he hates children. You're right.
It looks like he does. There's no hiding.
I don't hate them. I just don't like talking to them.
You are terrible at it.
I don't know how to do it.
Hello, how's it going?
Makes me very uncomfortable.
Yeah, you just call them buddy.
Like, just talk like an adult.
No, if you do that to them, they will talk like adults back to you. I just think that
they just make me deeply uncomfortable.
Yeah,
like,
I don't know what to say to them.
No, it's a me problem. It's not a them problem. The kids are fine. They're just being kids. But, that's a behavior that I don't enjoy. Except for Toy Field. It's a good cause. Thursday night football is going to be electric between the Cowboys and the Lions. We'll see how that matchup takes place. Obviously, both teams could use a win. Cowboys hanging on for dear life. That tie between them and Green Bay is going to come up at some point for either one of those teams at this point. But I'm looking forward to seeing that matchup. We talked a little bit about that on the podcast today. You could go check that out with the Install with Greg Cosell. Also, worth noting, Pete Thamel, right before the show started. Did you see this? Sources. Number 14 Vanderbilt explored the possibility of playing an exempt 13th game this weekend as a way to give one final showcase for the college football playoff. There was interest from the team, university officials, the athletic department, and the coaching staff.
But no one else.
But I guess nobody was interested in taking the 13th game.
Who would they play? Texas?
Oh, no, Texas wouldn't do it, right? Texas doesn't
Yeah,
want
why
that.
would they want a rematch? You're right.
Texas is already a bit fraught with 3 losses.
Yeah, who would make sense for them to play that would maybe have interest? We don't have time to do this, but maybe an interesting conversation for tomorrow.
Perhaps. Polls.
I'm Bert. Bert. The polls brought to you by Two Rivers Ford, the most trusted Ford dealer in all of the South. Which Titans will end up making the Pro Bowl? 3 people. Very similar responses. Simmons and DK. Karen Reeves says no one. She's not optimistic that any Titans will make the Pro Bowl.
Morgan Cox is going to be in the Pro Bowl.
Ooh, I forgot about old Morgan.
You can't. He's a timeless treasure, a VFL, and just really the only thing that's consistently great about the Titans.
He is a barnacle on the ship. That is the Titans.
No, don't call him a barnacle.
Well, you can't get rid of them. They have their own purpose.
No, I'm sure he could go somewhere else and do plenty of things other than be the long snapper for the Titans. But
who is in a more difficult situation to navigate this season, Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? 79% of the audience say Cam Ward. I'm inclined to agree with him.
Yeah, I'd say on aggregate, Cam plays for the worst franchise.
Would you accept Dane Brugler's hypothetical draft trade with the Titans' #1 overall pick, both the Browns' 26th first and a 2027 day 2 pick? The audience, 46% say, yeah, that's enough, and 53% say, no, not enough value.
It's not enough.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Simply not enough value. You need a 2027 first in there, too.
What's more likely to happen with Mike Tomlin's situation? Stay with the Steelers, take another head coaching job, or take a gap year? 52% of the audience think he'll stay with the Steelers. People in Pittsburgh do not agree.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see what happens. I think it's more likely than not that he ends up still with the Steelers, but it's never been more in question than it is right now. And I said I was going to ask Nate Washington about it today. We got caught up in a conversation about Titans ownership, and we can ask Nate about that next week because I'm sure it'll still be an ongoing discussion, especially if they lose to Roberts Ravens.
They would. This weekend. I don't know. We got some bad news. I am putting the cart before the horse too much this week, as I prompted Lamar Jackson. Hey, he practiced for the first practice day. Yeah, he's not on the field today. So if he is not in line to start, we will see Snoop Huntley.
Hey.
I want to jump off a bridge. See you tomorrow, buddy.
Have a great rest of your afternoon. Prime time tonight at 6 ahead of Thursday Night Football. We'll see you there on A to Z Sports. You can enjoy Blaine and Zach, whatever they're going to talk about, coming up next.